Hey, School Zone audience, Matt coming at you here from very cold Stephenville, Texas.
It's freezing.
It is 21 degrees this morning, which is not normal for us here outside of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I've got my good friend. He's been a guest on the show previously, and we've gotten to know each other really, really well over the last few years as we've both grown our presence in the school space. Me initially with School Spirit Vending, my franchise, and now with the School Zone School Fundraising Ideas podcast. None other, the one, the only, Danny Sunshine Bauer, the host of the Better Leaders, Better Schools podcast, the author of the Better Leaders, Better Schools Roadmap book that was just published recently. Daniel, how's it going, man?
Man, I am excited to be here, Matt. Thanks for inviting me on the show again. I appreciate it.
So, dude, where are you now? I'm in Texas, and it's cold. You're somewhere on the planet. I don't remember exactly where. Fill everybody in.
Today, calling in from Haarlem, Netherlands, the original Haarlem, by the way, too. It's west of Amsterdam, northeast of The Hague, up the coast. And my wife, we're just in between contracts. So we moved from Belgium to here just to, why not? Why not experience a new part of the continent? And then we'll be somewhere else in January. So we'll see. It's fun. It's really exciting. We love all these cultural experiences. And, doing what I do, serving school leaders, it's all virtual. So I could do it from anywhere.
So talk a little bit about your background. You spent a lot of time in education yourself, and then your transition from that to what you're doing now.
Sure. Classroom teacher, 12 years, instructional coach, worked at central office, assistant principal. Somewhere in that journey, I was an assistant principal that wasn't getting developed as a leader. And so I started a podcast to talk to really smart school leaders and smart business owners and just leaders in general. And I figured that'd be great personal and professional development for me. And it was. But instead of keeping it all to myself and doing it in private, I did it in public, put it out for free on iTunes and my website. And people have responded to the voice in the content. And so that has afforded me this real dream life. I mean, I'm so crystal clear on I want to do two things: coach and create content for school leaders and small business owners. And everything else is just noise. And behind the scenes, I'm working to get myself out of those other things. And I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And it's just so satisfying, so rewarding. My life is awesome. And it's great. It's great being here right now. And I can't wait to see where I'm at next when we get on another call.
So you've been doing the show a little over 3 years now.
Yeah.
What was it? And you just touched briefly a second ago about the fact that you were an assistant principal that wasn't really being fed. Talk about that experience and what you found, by dealing with leaders literally all over the planet, as far as that void, and how Better Leaders, Better Schools helps fill that void.
It's kind of funny because it's like I'm thankful that it's a mess out there in public education in some sense, because then I can do what I do. It's sort of weird to be thankful for that. But it's also very helpful because, a school district, they can't do everything. That's a leadership principle. You got to know what you're great at, and you can't do everything. My experience, and I could probably generalize it because many of the people I work with, that's their experience too, which is why they work with me. But as an assistant principal, nobody develops you. You're completely looked over. You just work really hard. As a principal, when you go to meetings, you just find out the 20 things you need to do or you're going to get fired, right? It's not how do you lead, how do you build teams, how do you build culture, how do you respond, in tough situations and conflict. And so the elevator pitch is that we help school leaders fight isolation and frustration because the job is really hard and it's very alone through a leadership community, which we call the mastermind, in order to gain clarity, to have that focus, to have that confidence that we're moving in the right direction, to gain clarity and find solutions to their greatest challenges. So that's what I do in a nutshell. because it was my lived experience to either be completely looked over or when I sat as a principal, just to be dumped on, but again, not developed. And that's a big problem, and I'm happy to solve it.
So you started the show. You now are kind of the big dog in the educational podcast space with your show. Give folks a little better idea of what the show's about, what your focus is, what's the format, that type of thing for those that haven't heard about it yet.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. The Better Leaders, Better Schools podcast, that's weekly. It's interview format 95% of the time. About 20, 30 minutes, used to be a lot longer. I enjoyed it. My true fans, they love it, but most people just want something in a commute format. So I cut down the length. Just talking to awesome leaders, right? In learning from their successes, from their failures, trying to pull out of their brains, best practices. There's a quote I love. Derek Sivers came up with it, I believe, but what's ordinary to you is extraordinary to me. And so we all have these habits, these things that make us A players, or at least the top performers do, but they don't realize that it's a superpower, right? And so part of my job is having very authentic conversations and trying to pull that gold out of my guest. And I try to do it as a conversation too, and not as an interview. So it's more authentic. I also want to mention that I have a second podcast called the School Leadership Series. That one's all me. It's Danny Sunshine 100% of the time. It's Monday through Friday, 5 minutes or less. That was to expand my reach. So they're on Amazon, Alexa-enabled devices, but it's also available on iTunes. And that's sort of just a jolt of energy on the way into school. And it's not going to be all me real soon. So I coach school leaders. And by having this podcast, I learned as I was building it, if you show up every day, if you show up consistently and just offer value, people are going to see you as an expert. Matt, that happened in my life. And it was surprising, even though people told me it was going to happen, because the emails came in, the texts came in, the phone calls, and folks wanted help. They wanted coaching. And that's what I do. I was an educator. I'm still a teacher. My classroom just looks totally different because of technology and because of the medium of a podcast to get my voice out there. So I'm still doing what I did, 20 years ago or whatever, but it just looks a little bit different. Anyways, I'm really excited because the School Leadership Series, I have my perspective, my biases, my point of view, and I offer value when I pick up the mic and create content for people. But the thing I'm most excited about in 2019 moving forward, I'm building a content creation team for School Leadership Series. So back to the group coaching, I ask my leaders, question tradition. Tradition is sometimes great. It sometimes doesn't make any sense. It's not serving the need for why ever it was built. And I thought about my business because with schools, it's easy. Okay, rows, worksheets, that's stupid. Why are we still doing that stuff? But for me, what do I question? And I said, why do I have to host my own show? Oh my gosh, I don't. And there's awesome people I'm connected to by building my podcast, diverse voices, culturally, gender, however you want to cut it. I'm going to bring them to the microphone, amplify them, put them on my shoulders, give them my platform, and we're all going to win. The industry is going to win. Kids are going to win because I'm not keeping it all, to myself. If you can't tell, I'm all about abundance. I'm about win-win situations when I'm at my best, At my worst, I'm scared. I think small. I start to withdraw. But fortunately, I'm normally at my best.
So along the way, you decided to write a book, and just got this in my hands here not too long ago, the Better Leaders, Better Schools Roadmap. Talk a little bit about the book, man, where people can get it, why you wrote it, and why they need to pick it up for themselves.
I want to serve school leaders more broadly. And so having a book is just one way to do that. And everybody doesn't listen to podcasts. So as much as I'm known in the, what I would call connected school leader circle, so if they're very active on social media, the chances are people know me or know the show. But that's like I don't know, maybe 5-10% of all school leaders. So this is a way to grow the brand, make a bigger impact, serve more school leaders. And somebody that's influenced me quite deeply, Seth Godin, wrote a free book on education called Stop Stealing Dreams. And essentially, he challenged the reader to criticize his work, keep the conversation going, or write their own manifesto for education. So I wrote Stop Stealing Dreams 2.0, which is the Better Leaders, Better Schools roadmap, small ideas that lead to big impact. And it's a shout out to Seth, and it's a love letter to heroic school leaders. And it's really about very small, actionable steps that people can take, well, school leaders can take to have a huge ripple effect, impact within their building. And if they're interested in creating legendary schools, the roadmap is available on Amazon. They can get it right now.
So you can go to Amazon.com, look that up, and purchase that. I'm going to do something, Daniel, here real quick. Just why not? Because we can.
Okay.
The first person that hears this show and emails me at schoolzonepodcast@gmail.com, we will send this copy of the book to them. Schoolzonepodcast@gmail.com. The first email that I get requesting a copy of the book, I will put this in the mail to you and give you an opportunity to have a copy for yourself. Otherwise, Amazon.com, pick it up, man. Great book from an amazing guy. Daniel and I have gotten to know each other over the last 3.5, 4 years. We share history back in the Chicago area where we both spent a bunch of time. He was down for a little while. Now he's all over the world, following his wife for the time being, but so amazing. If I remember right, you're working now with school leaders in 8 different countries. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Right there in the Netherlands right now. And after January, who knows where you'll be.
Yeah. I mean, that's the neatest thing with this technology. I mean, we meet on Zoom. I'd love to do face-to-face, and that's a goal in 2019 to do a live event. But yeah, 45 school leaders, 8 different countries. We get together in this leadership community and talk deeply about education leadership. And then I have a number of one-on-one clients from assistant principals, superintendents that I work with as well.
So talk a little bit about the mastermind community, how that works. If someone is like, man, this is exactly what I need.
Yeah.
How do they reach out to you? What does that potentially look like?
Right.
That type of thing.
Right. Well, if you're a listener, number one, if they're a school leader, I serve you, right? If you're a parent and you have a kid at a school, or you're a school spirit vending, business owner, and you have relationships with principals, then you need to tell them that this exists. Because what I found is that the job is incredibly hard and extremely isolating. So if we go back to the elevator pitch, we help school leaders fight isolation and frustration via leadership community in order to gain clarity and find solutions to their greatest challenges. What that looks like is weekly, we get together on Tuesday or Wednesday evenings, and we talk about education and leadership in deep and vulnerable, authentic ways. People are able to bring in real time their greatest challenges that they're facing at their school. Maybe it's a dream or a project initiative that they are considering. How do I get this off the ground? How do I build ownership? All sorts of stuff. Maybe it's creating a vision for the school. Long story short, we get together, we talk about it as a group and make a plan. They go execute. But it's amazing because I've seen people become principal of their whole entire state, right? Like working with me, or their district, or their county. I've seen people jump from teacher to AP to principal for the first time, principal to superintendent. I've seen people create jobs out of thin air because as a community, we've been able to dialogue about what their heart is telling them they should be doing in terms of serving as a school leader. And they're frustrated by the lack of opportunity or whatever. And what if you try this? And people have gotten jobs that did not exist before we even talked about it. So it's just neat. You know, it's about helping people make dreams a reality. That's what we do within the mastermind. And so again, if you're a school leader, you feel isolated or frustrated, I'm your guy. And if you're a parent and you could see that school leader, you could see if their jaw's a little too tight or their fist might be clenched, or who knows, you know, if you have that good relationship, you got that sense like, man, I bet they could use a little bit of help. You know, I want to help them. And they could go to betterleadersbetterschools.com/MM for mastermind. And they could read about all of the stuff, you know, all the value, all the transformation to expect. I have a few mastermind meetings recorded. I have testimonials from current and past clients. Every question, I'm currently working on a FAQ. So basically all that content, all that information is out there for you. Or you could always just email me, Daniel@betterleadersbetterschools.com. Just say you're interested in learning more about the mastermind. We could set up a call, see if it's right for you.
Daniel Sunshine Bauer, it's been awesome having you on, man. Any last parting words for the School Zone audience you want to leave them with?
Well, first, Matt Miller, I love you, so I want to say that. And so just see how you react if I could get your face red, but that didn't work, so that's okay. My face is more red than yours. Last bits of advice is that you can, you know, we had that imposter syndrome, and man, I could just beat myself up over the stupidest little thing. And that's the you gotta get yourself around a community that's going to build you up. That's going to say, no, those are lies. That's not you. You know, here's what we see if you need to improve, but here's all your strengths. And you just need to get out of your head. So you can do it. Don't believe the lies. And get yourself, if you don't get plugged into my community, get plugged in somewhere. And it doesn't matter if you're a school leader or if you're a professional stay-at-home mom. Like, you need community. That's how you thrive as a human being. So I push all your listeners just to find somewhere to plug in if you're not plugged in right now.
Better Leaders, betterschools.com. The Better Leaders, Better Schools roadmap. Danny Sunshine Bauer, appreciate you being on, man, and joining us today in the School Zone. Take care, bud, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Matt. It's been a pleasure.